So, Dr. Abraham, at one point in your book, you quote Ramakrishna Paramhamsa, who said, an empty stomach has no use for religion. But don't you think the opposite is proved to be true for Christianity?
Okay.
Because I would say that Christianity would end or begin to end the day the hunger in the world ends.
Okay. What I would like to say to that is that what Paramahamsa was saying was from a moral point of view. It is immoral to preach religion, which is what Christianity is doing. Where it is immoral to preach religion, hungry stomach. You have to teach them livelihood. You have to teach them how to make money, or you have to teach them about economic revival things. You can't teach them about prayer and all that, because that won't fit. So yeah, from a moral point of view, that is true. But from the Christian missionary point of view, it is a weakness to be exploited. Okay. So because they can't market their religion through argument, through debate, the way Zen Buddhism went, like Bodhidharma went to China, he didn't give people any financial benefits. He just argued because his ideas were good. So since that is lacking in the Christian missionary armor, so what they have done is they have opted to go for the immoral route, and that is to bribe people and exploit their hunger. So the moral argument is that don't talk to people who are hungry about religion. Try to tell them about economic things. Try to revive their livelihood. That is the moral argument. And the immoral thing to do is to go to the poor and exploit their poverty and try to push your religious agenda. So
Yeah.
at a moral level, I would agree with some what Ramakrishna Paramahamsa said, and what the Christian missionaries are doing is what is basically immoral. Do what Zen Patriarch did, Bodhidharma did. If you have it in you, come here, come to India and give us an idea. And you know why Bodhidharma went to China? He went to China because he felt that there's too much of religion and philosophy in India. He wanted to go to China where their people are innocent of religion, because then they will understand. Indians are so full of themselves and so full of philosophy, they won't understand what he's saying. So he wanted to go to he wanted to go to China, where people are more innocent of religion and
Or
more
maybe you can look at it like this: Indians were already full of philosophy and there was nothing else to teach them.
yeah, or probably they were so full of philosophy they didn't understand anything. That was what Zen Buddhist was probably what trying to say. That is, if you want to understand Zen, you have to be innocent of knowledge. Probably that is what he was trying to say. I mean, that's a philosophical
I would
abstract
like
point.
to
Let's
look
not
at
get
it
it.
differently.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
the Zen Buddhism couldn't compete with Sanatana Dharma, which is why he
Okay.
found
Okay.
market somewhere else.
Let's not get in there.
Okay. That's just for the humor. So,
Yeah.
what would you say about this thesis? The day world hunger ends would be the beginning of the end of Christianity.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
it
will.
would decline. What missionaries are now doing in these villages or disadvantaged communities is, I mean, I'm not calling villages as disadvantaged communities, villages and disadvantaged communities. That's what they're doing. They're exploiting the needs, the basic needs of human beings. So handing them rice bags and handing them, admissions in schools for their children. So this is how they are winning the masses over to their side.
Yeah,
So
that's
my thesis is the day the basic human needs are met in some other way, in the right way, I think that is the day you can actually counter Christianity, along with the discourse, a healthy discourse and a healthy argument.
yeah. I would second that completely. I would completely agree with you on this. And that is also symptomatic that they don't have good arguments. That's what I point that I'm trying to make. They don't have a good argument on their arsenal. The only arsenal they have is economic, and they're using it, and it's immoral. Basically, that's what Swami Vivekananda, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa was saying. So that is, so I would agree with you completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talk extensively about Western philosophy, both in your book and even in your conversations. You bring in a lot of Western philosophy. You throw names of key people in Western philosophy, the authors, the books, titles, and all that. And it also looks like you were drawn to it from a very young age. And by now you have read all the writings of all the key people of Western philosophy, right?
Not
So
all, not all. That is too much.
most
But some
key
of
people,
them,
I
some
said
of
key
them,
people
key
like
people.
Plato,
Okay.
Aristotle, and Karl
Yeah,
Popper.
yeah,
So
yeah,
all of these people you've read.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
and you've implied in your book that Christianity has totally drawn from the Western philosophy. At least majority of its
Uh,
doctrines were shaped after Western philosophy. And by that definition, are you saying that it is important for lay Hindu, basically, somebody who wants to know about Christianity, that they understand Western philosophy first?
I would say Indians need to understand Western philosophy on its own merit first, not just to counter Christianity, but to understand. As a matter, I will just try to modify your statement a little bit. Indian Christianity, I feel, is also Christ's message is basically Buddhism, as I already mentioned, and but the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church took a lot of inspiration from Plato. Okay, the idea is that the Roman Catholic Church took the idea of taking power, religious establishment taking power from Plato. So the if you want to understand the West, if you want to understand the Western aggression, you have to understand Western philosophy.
So you've also said in the book that the Hindu idea of spirituality was the best way forward for as a
Yeah.
religious discipline. So
Mhm.
why do you think so?
Basically, I would first start with my cousin brother. He's a Christian missionary now. He said that he was inspired because of me to go in the opposite direction. He said the problem with Hinduism is that there are many contradictory philosophies in it. Okay, there are many contradictory ideas in it. So he said that when something is having a contradictory idea, it cannot be correct. Now there is a thing is that when we understand Hinduism from the Abrahamic lens, that is how it looks. Because the idea that there should be only one truth, there should be only one idea, and there should be only one way to one spiritual discipline, one God or whatever, is actually wrong, because humanity has various temperaments. My temperament will be intellectual, somebody else's temperament will be more emotional, sentimental. So each temperament needs a different religion. That is what the Indian philosophers have been saying, or a different spiritual path. So people can correctly argue that Hinduism does not exist. Yes, Hinduism does not exist in the Abrahamic sense of the word. Okay, so there are traditions which are contradictory to each other. It's called Astic traditions are Vedic, the Gnostic traditions are the non-Vedic. So there are Charvakas which are going in the complete opposite direction. That is no spirituality, have a lot of liquor and all that sort of thing. In the sense that enjoy life to the fullest. There is no afterlife. There is no
Epicureanism, right?
epical. Yes, yes. So that there are various traditions in India, and maybe they will contradict. Like for example, Buddhism says moksha is towards nothingness, or an Advaita will says there is oneness, or there is one God. Okay, so there is nothingness, there is oneness, there is dwellness. So there is different ways of looking at the same thing. Or Jains will say everything has a different soul. Every being has different souls, multiplicity of souls. So the idea here, what I'm trying to say is that the there is no one size fits all. Okay, so that is one thing that Indians have understood millennia ago, and unfortunately that knowledge has been upended by the Abrahamic idea of using force, using state power. That is a very important topic to understand, the relationship between state and religion, and using state power to force your views on others. And thankfully Indians didn't do that. and we have to revive that tradition. We shouldn't seek uniformity in the way, in the sense that, in order to fight Christianity, or in order to fight the Abrahamic onslaught, or the Western, or the communists, or whatever, all the cultural onslaughts, we don't need to, lose out on what is good in us, good in the Indian idea. That is the celebration of diversity. Let's not try to, there is one quote from Friedrich Nietzsche. When you stare at the abyss stares back at you. What happens is that when you start to fight something evil, you become that evil. Because you want to fight it, you want to learn all the dirty tricks, and you end up doing all the dirty things that you are fighting, and you end up becoming the people you fight. And like, for example, this happens very commonly when people fight a dictator. They formed an armed group, they form an armed rebellion, and then they overthrow the dictator. Then what happens? The guy who was leading the armed rebellion will become the new dictator, and he continues the same atrocities that he was fighting against one day. I mean, this has happened so commonly, and I think that the ideological fight that Indians have to do, we have a responsibility not to become like the Abrahamics. And to a certain extent, we are becoming like that. I don't blame that, because that's human nature. So when you want to fight, in Malayalam we say mullu ne mullu ondedukka. That is, you take a throne using a throne.
Oh,
So if you want to take out the throne, you want to become a throne, and you want to take out, fine. Some of the practically, that all those sort of things happen. But we have to be careful that one of the greatest beauty of India is the celebration of diversity, and not to try to form an Abrahamic version of Hinduism, and that would be sad if it
absolutely.
happened.
Absolutely. I'm
If
so in agreement with that.
uh,
Yes. So I'm someone who believes that every person born on the face of our planet must give back to it according to his or her physical and intellectual capacity. So you have had a blessed life with the exposure you were given as a kid, the books you have had the advantage of reading, the education that you were privileged to have. So, how do you intend, if at all you do, to give back to the world that you have taken so much from?
First thing, okay, thank you for asking that question. The I have formed an NGO called Rishi Foundation. This is my book, The Philosopher Volunteer. So my way of giving back is basically that I would like to propagate volunteerism. That you can volunteer by giving part of your time. That is what I am doing. I am trying to propagate sustainable agriculture. I am trying to propagate primary health in my spare time through Rishi Foundation. And Rishi Foundation recently planted 80 trees in our medical college campus. So we are trying to give out. That's one thing I am trying to do. Second thing is that I want to integrate at a philosophical level. I want to integrate three things: the Indian philosophy, the Western philosophy, and the philosophy of empirical science. The three things. The 21st century should be an integration of these three philosophical. Indian philosophy does not have all the answers. I don't agree to that. There are certain aspects of life which Indian philosophers generally, Chanakya is one exception, generally have ignored. And that has to be, and that is what Westerners didn't ignore, and that needs to be focused on. And the idea of the Socratic dialogue, Socrates, whom I describe as the anti-guru. India is full of gurus, and Socrates is the anti-guru. So India needs to get
What
introduced
would
to.
you explain that? What does anti-guru mean?
Okay, there's the guru means that everybody wants to teach. Okay, everybody wants to be a guru. eh? If I know something, if I know something, I want to teach. Okay, it's very rare for a person to say I don't know something. Okay, I want to learn. eh? And that's the anti-guru. That is the guy who doesn't know anything, who wants to learn. So
Or
Socrates
at
was
least admits that he doesn't know anything. None of us
admits.
know everything.
None of us know everything. So what was great about Socrates was that he didn't write a book. He didn't have a philosophy. He just went to we don't know how Socrates thought. I mean, it's called in the Western literature, it's called the Socratic problem. That is, nobody know what his real thought is. So we know only through secondary sources. What happens is that he went to the streets of Athens and he used to ask questions. He used to say, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I don't know. Can you tell me this? So somebody will say, "Okay, I know something. I will tell you this. So everybody is a guru for him. So they will tell you something. And then he will say, if this is true, then this is also true. But this is illogical. So it is this way of dialogue. That is trying to find out the absurdities in people's when you say I know something. Socrates used to bring out the absurdity in it. That is the spirit of questioning the spirit. And this sort of impressed the youngsters who were around. He was killed. Why was he killed? He was given poison because he was corrupting the youth. So this impressed the youngsters. Some of became great philosopher, Plato. Then some became dramatists. Some became satirists, no, writers. So he inspired a class of people who became great, and they are the ones who told that there was this guy called Socrates. That's how the whole world knows that there was somebody called Socrates. So anyway, so to me there is something, and there is something in Western philosophy that Indians have not touched. So, for example, the most dramatic example of that is the Indian Constitution. Can anybody say, is there any element of Indian thought in Indian Constitution? And all of the ideas about separation of the legislature, judiciary, parliament, the separation of powers, the idea of elections, the idea of all of that came from the West in the sense that, so I would say that I would like to integrate Indian philosophy. I would like to also try to raise awareness about the philosophical futility of Abrahamic religious doctrine. That's very important because that has created a lot of. As a matter of fact, I don't know if there is a time. There is a concept called Abrahamic apocalypticism. That is, apocalypticism is going to basically has the potential to destroy the world because in the Middle East, a lot of people think that the end times is near and they're ready to die for it. There are a lot of Christians in US who are waiting for a war in Middle East so that Christ can come back. These are such dangerous ideologies. I mean, people are rooting for almost nuclear war. Why? Because Christ can come. I'm not talking one
Government,
or two. I'm not talking one or two people. I'm talking millions of
thousands
people
of
here.
people. Yes.
Millions. The people raptures. How many Americans believe in rapture? I was shocked to know that it's in millions. Millions believe that Christ is going to
Almost
come
all
and they're going to.
Christians, all Christians believe. Most of them.
Yeah,
Conservative,
but
fundamentalist, conservative Christians believe.
yeah, besides that, the average lay Christians don't even know what a rapture is. But there are millions of Americans, not in India, millions of Americans who are looking forward to rapture, and and they support Israel and they support the conflict in the Middle East only so that there is a war in the Middle East, so that Christ can come. So the Iranians are waiting for a war in the Middle East to fight the Israelis so that Mahdi can come. The Sunnis are doing that. So imagine Christian fundamentalists, the Sunni fundamentalists, the Shia fundamentalists are rooting for war. Okay, and the amount of damage Abrahamic religious doctrine has done in the world is immense. I mean, it's unspeakably great, and only thing that saved the world from that was Enlightenment, European Enlightenment, and now Hindu revivalism is next challenge for that. So Godspeed to both of that, and that's what I want to happen. I support Hindu revivalism for the simple reason that I want Abrahamic religious doctrine to be weakened, and also in an ideological perspective, a better appreciation of Western philosophy, better appreciation of Socrates in India, for example, a better idea, better dialogue, better conversations.
How do you intend to facilitate those conversations, those debates, and how do you intend to weaken the Abrahamic doctrine and strengthen support Hindu revivalism?
Give good, clear arguments, good, clear thought process, and that is what the world needs. That is no angry numbers. That's not what we need. We need to tell people we need to, I mean, fundamentally at an intellectual level, the Abrahamic religious doctrine is ridiculous. You just need to say that out loud. But what is happening is that this Sarva Dharma Samabhava idea is actually, being corrupted in such a way that bullshit is also has to be accepted as, something that you need
Spirituality.
to, yeah, spirituality, or something that needs to be respected. Like, for example, I would say like atheism. Atheism is that I don't believe in God. Okay, if suppose you say I don't believe in God, you are hurting the religious sentiments of millions of people. Okay, there are a lot of people who are devout believers in God, whether they're Hindus or Christians or Muslims or whatever. So now, just because you're hurting people's sentiments, are you not supposed to? Do you not have the right to believe that there is no God? Okay, is it you have the right, because that is what the constitution says, that is what is right, is you to have the right to disbelieve or disagree with anything that you want. So why can't Hindus disagree with the Abrahamic religious document? What is a doctrine? What is so impolite about it? So we Hindus have been guilt tripped into, into saying that if you sort of like make an objection to the Abrahamic religious doctrine, you're fascist, you're somehow communal, you're somehow evil. It's not. I mean, it's no more evil than atheism. I mean, like, you don't believe in God. I mean, that's not evil. So it's no more than that. You just disagree with something. There's nothing evil about that. Yeah? And people should be confident enough to disagree without being guilt tripped into it. You can say that, I don't believe that if you believe in Jesus Christ, you will go to heaven. I think it's a superstitious idea. You should have the confidence to say that in your face to any Christian or a non-Christian or whatever. Or you can say that the idea of kafir, the idea that this is kufr, is wrong. I mean, this is not kufr. I like idol worship. What's wrong with you? This the intellectual confidence and the and give good arguments. Bring out all the don't, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just look into the Enlightenment philosophers' writings on Christianity. You will get good number of arguments. Read Voltaire, for example. You will know how to debunk Christianity.
But
The,
Voltaire and Plato are not for everybody, right?
yeah, actually, that I'm not saying it has to happen at the lay level. I'm saying it has to happen at the intellectual level, in the sense that throughout history, like for example madams or ashrams or the seminaries or the burning of the great university of Takshashila was burned. I mean, someone, I read that it had 9 million books. It was burned by the Islamic invaders. I mean, these were the centers where people thought was crystallized. So people who, not, I agree with you, not everybody reads books. I mean, abstract thinking is not everybody's cup of tea. It is only for people who are built inside a particular way. I agree with that. But those who can read, the
But don't you
small.
think it falls on them, the people that you just mentioned, that people that are intellectually
Inclined.
evolved, and yeah. So doesn't it fall on them to educate the others,
Yes,
the people that are not tilted to abstract
yeah,
thinking?
absolutely, absolutely. I feel that the people who read should be able to articulate these arguments. Understand, that is one thing. Please understand your know thy enemy. You understand how the other person thinks first, and try to understand
So
their thought process.
you do think there's a lot of misunderstanding on the part of Hindus about the Abrahamic doctrines and Abrahamic
Yeah,
agenda?
yeah, exactly. Whenever I read many comments on Facebook and Twitter, I almost feel sorry for them, because on one side they become very angry. They saw lots of outbursts, is very angry. On the other side, they are very like, we believe in all religion, we think all religion is great, and we are like very secular. This oscillation between anger and extreme secularism I see so often, among many people in Twitter and Facebook, that I feel sorry. I mean, there is no need for you to oscillate like this. You have to not go into this extreme secularism or extreme Sarva Dharma Samabhava idea, nor you have to become so angry and lose your complete temper and composure.
No light,
Be,
all heat.
yeah, no, yeah, no, all light, just light, no heat. Because give arguments, try to understand, speak in a calm voice, for example. try not to get angry. There's no need to get angry. By being angry, you're not convincing anyone. Because I learned this in my 16 year of age when I was talking to the Christian missionaries. I didn't become angry. I was very calm. I was very calm and I asked them very calmly all the questions that I needed to ask. And I was hitting them. Even my uncle, who was listening to my conversation when they left, he congratulated me. Robin, you did very well. He was that like that. So what I'm trying to say is that the people who read and write need to give good arguments, need to understand the opposite side, their point of thinking, and then tell them the world that this point of thinking is wrong. And there is no, and shed this idea of sarva dharma samabhava. This is not samabhava. The bhavas are different. When you say that, you believe that only if you believe X will go to heaven, non-X will go to hell, it is not a dharmic bhav. It is a wrong bhav, because you are saying that even if you are a good human being, you will be in hell because you didn't believe in Jesus Christ. I mean, that makes Jesus Christ into a monster in my eyes. Why
Correct.
you believe, egoistic monster who hey, believe in me or you are in hell. I mean,
Correct.
that's ridiculous. That's not dharma. That's adharma actually. And so
Yeah.
there is no sarva dharma samabhava here at all. So there is no need to get angry. Just say it out loud that we don't agree. I mean, nothing is going to happen. Atheists do that all the time. They calmly point to the theory of evolution and say, look, there isn't God, and look, there isn't all your deities. They make fun of the Hindu worship of Shiva's phallus. How can you worship a
Exactly.
genital organ? Fine, their view, their opinion. You can have
But
your
they don't,
opinion.
they're not afraid to call out loud.
Yeah, they're not afraid to call out loud, and they say it in humor, they say it nicely, say it in the same humor, say it nicely that you don't disagree, you don't agree with the Abrahamic religious doctrine. Why give anger and why say give all these threats and which you are not going to carry out anyway, all this violence. You threaten
Correct.
because to fulfill your impotent rage, you type out on Twitter or on Facebook things that you will most probably never do in life. And why do you do that? And spread all this. People will take screenshot of that and send, and see how evil monsters are out there. And
Yes.
you feed the narrative. You feed the narrative because, as I already mentioned earlier, it's the egos that are getting hurt, and which people are extrapolating onto Hindus and onto others and telling their fascists. And their egos are hurt because their ideas are being called out. And so, as I said earlier, perfectly gentle, nice human beings are being called fascists in this country. Very
Yeah.
sweet human beings. You will feel like, oh, how can you call this guy a fascist?
Correct.
All these sort of nonsense is happening, and the trolls on social media are actually, unfortunately, not helping the matter.
So
That's it.
I really hope, I truly hope that you will be able to make a difference, and all the learning that you've had the good privilege of. Um,
And
I hope that you will be able to give it to pass it down to people that haven't been so advantaged and so privileged to receive. So I hope you succeed in this endeavor, and good luck with your Rishi Foundation. So viewers, that was Dr. Robin Joseph Abraham, who proudly calls himself a pagan today. He is open to a conversation on his social media handle, the Twitter handle, which is at Robin Joseph ABR1. And his book, The Philosopher Volunteer, is available on Kindle Books. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in another episode. Until then, namaste.